He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, but people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fith chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fith chapter. That's right. Welcome to the Fith chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. We're here for episode 106, and we're almost done with the play-in tournament. Almost ready for the real deal, the real playoffs. And I think that after what happened last night, LeBron James might not want whoever created the play-in tournament fired. What do you think?
I don't know, Chapman. I'm seeing three of you. I just want to make sure
make sure you pick the right one. Yeah, that's right.
There's the one right there.
Yeah, actually, now that you think about it, after sustaining that eye injury and twisting up his knee on that same play, maybe that's another reason for him to not want that tournament.
Yeah, it looks like he's just getting himself ready for a movie career, man. The drama, getting hit in the face. He's really selling it.
Yeah, and I'm surprised, even though they made the right call, that given it was LeBron James, given the reputation of Draymond Green, that they didn't call it a flagrant foul.
Yeah, I agree with you. And everybody knows LeBron's great, but he didn't do himself any favors. Where if he's just tough through that and hit the shot, wasn't all acting like he got run over by a bus and everything, he'd got a lot more credit. But instead, but just shows you there's LeBron being LeBron.
All right, well, it's definitely going to be Brian being Brian and Dennis being Dennis here on episode 106. I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in. We've got 5 more fantastic chapters for you. Thanks to all who are watching via YouTube, watching via Facebook Live, and watching via Twitch. And to those who are listening to the podcast, which is available at about 11 o'clock on the day of each show via Apple, Google, and Spotify. Make sure you like, subscribe, and participate in each show by sending in your feedback via Facebook Live and YouTube. Dennis will be reading it throughout the course of the show. If you're wondering what we'll be talking about during episode 106, let's take a look at today's book. And in the second chapter, you can see that we're going to be talking about new school versus old school. Yermin Mercedes hit that home run a couple days ago, and you'd think his manager would be thrilled. He wasn't. We'll give you the details, and we'll tell you whose side we're on. In the third chapter, we know the same old Lions are not expected to have a good year, but what if everything goes their way? Could they make the playoffs? Could they win the division? We'll tell you. In the fourth chapter, what we just spoke about, the NBA playoffs, we'll give you our predictions now that we just need the 2 8 seeds to figure themselves out, and then the playoffs begin in earnest over the weekend. And then, of course, in the fifth chapter, we've got the major wager, where we will try to get you guys some money, particularly with sports betting being legal here in the state of Michigan. But, Dennis, we're going to start off in the first chapter, and that takes us to the Detroit Tigers, where on Tuesday night after our show, Spencer Turnbull made history. He walked 2 batters but did not allow a hit against the Mariners and earned his first career no-hitter. And, it came from an unlikely pitcher, because you expect a guy like Justin Verlander, who was the last Tiger pitcher to get a no-hitter, to do something like that, but not someone like Spencer Turnbull. And this first chapter also takes us to the New York Yankees, because the very next day, yesterday, Corey Kluber, who used to be great with the Indians but has been pretty good but not elite the last few years, he threw a no-hitter against the Rangers. And there are a lot of stories to take from these no-hitters, like, for instance, the Mariners, Rangers, and Indians all getting no-hit twice in the first 2 months of the season, like the Tigers not being no-hit at all so far, when you would think that, particularly when they had those 17 games scoring 30 runs, they would have been no-hit 3 or 4 times. And there's also the storyline of so many no-hitters before June, 6. That's a lot when you consider that the record for a season is 7. And Clayton Kershaw says that it's too many. He said, quote, "No-hitters are cool, and I have all the respect in the world for Corey Kluber and Bumgarner and all those other guys that have thrown no-hitters, but to have one happen every night, it's probably not good for the game," end quote. Dennis, are all these no-hitters good or bad for the game of baseball?
Well, they're great for the game of baseball, but what it means is that, there's a problem with baseball, and that problem is so that the pitchers are way ahead of the hitters right now. And, the former GM of the Cubs and the Red Sox, who now works for your boy, Rob Manfred, and the Major League Baseball commissioner in the front office there. He was on a podcast, I don't know, it was last week or whatever. I just listened to it, though, a couple days ago. And, Epstein was talking about the reason that the pitchers are way ahead. They put on those biomechanical outfits, and the training and the weaponry that they're now have, it is just advanced over the hitters, just where the technology is at and the analytics, and they've taken a huge jump over there. And he pointed out that, the strikeout rate is 25 right now, where back in the 80s it was 12.5%. And guys that have strikeout rate of 25 were like Doc Gooden, Dr. K, in his rookie or his second year, and guys like Sandy Koufax and Nolan Ryan. But your average pitcher now has a strikeout rate of 25%. That's way too much. So pitchers, there's just too many strikeouts. That's the problem with the game, the strikeout rate. But the no-hitters are great, man. It's everything that's right with baseball. Everybody that goes to a baseball game, I can remember when I was growing up, if I wasn't saying it myself, there would be somebody, as soon as there was the first hit, somebody would say, "Oh, there goes the no-hitter. If there was a walk, there goes the perfect game." And you're always hoping that one day you'll be able to go to a no-hitter. I mean, that's the biggest thing about baseball, the one thing that you dream of. And yeah, there are a bunch, but it's good that there's a bunch of no-hitters, but it's bad that the game right here is not in balance because the pitchers have taken a jump ahead.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but I think that overall it's not good for the game because of what you were saying about the hitters being so far ahead. I mean, no hitters are supposed to be rare and special. Because they're so rare, they are special. And I think that certainly a guy like Turnbull should be proud of himself for what he did. If you're a Tigers fan, even if you're like me and you want the Tigers to lose so that Alavila can get his job taken from him, I was rooting for Turnbull to get the no-hitter because no-hitters are fun. But when we're seeing them all the time, it's alarming, and it's because it's more commonplace. It's not as special. Like I mentioned, the record for a season is 7, and at this pace, we're going to tie that record by the end of this month, which still has 11 to go. And like when I used to get a no-hitter alert on my phone, it was a big deal, or someone would text me, or I would see it scrolling on the bottom line. It would be a big deal because it would happen like once or maybe twice a month, and I would stop what I was doing because there was a no-hitter through 7 innings, and I would turn on the game and watch to see if it would be broken up in the 7th or 8th or the 9th, or watch it till its completion. But now I'm getting an alert on my phone like 3 times a week about someone taking a no-hitter into the 7th inning. And it's gotten to the point where I'm actually annoyed, where it's like, oh gosh, another guy is taking a no-hitter into the 7th or 8th inning. It hasn't been that special to me. And, it's kind of like the dunk. If you think about a basic one-handed dunk, not a windmill or off the backboard or between the legs, a basic one-handed dunk, it happens all the time in the NBA, so it's not that special unless it's like in traffic or something like that. But if it happens in a high school game, then it's shocking because, most guys aren't even 6'4" or 6'5", and they don't have that great athleticism. You think about it happening in the WNBA, it's even rare, and a lot of times they just stop the play and everybody just gathers around and celebrates, and they carry the woman off the court. The fact that it's happening so often, it does speak to what you're talking about, the pitchers being ahead of them and the hitters, and I think it just speaks to how it's way too difficult to get a hit in baseball. And let me just give you some numbers. So far in 2021, the top batting average is owned by the Astros at 271. The 15th best, so right in the middle, is at 235. And the team with the worst batting average is, no surprise, the Mariners at 198. The Tigers are 26 at 224. 5 years ago, not a long time ago, 5 years ago, the top team in batting average was 11 points higher. The 15th best team was 21 points higher, and the worst team in terms of batting average was 37 points higher, which means in 2016, the Padres, which had a 235 batting average, would right now have an average batting average. It's just way too hard in baseball to get a hit right now, and something needs to change, because I don't want to be in a position where this trend continues and we get to like 2026 and the major league average is the Mendoza line. That used to be an embarrassment. 235 used to be a sign of a bad hitter, but now you're average? I don't think that's sustainable for baseball.
Well, don't worry. Rob Manfred's on the job. He'll make an adjustment in the off season. They'll tinker with something down to the minors. They'll put it into play in the preseason. Look, there's nothing they can do. It's not like you're going to go next month and say, hey, what we're going to do, we're going to lower the mounds, or we're going to take them back to 67 feet or something. You're not going to do that. So you got to live with it this year and see what happens. And then
well,
even
this is a trend.
Well, it is a trend, and so like they did in 1968, maybe they'll lower the mount. They had a drastic 5 inches. They lowered it.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll look to lowering it a couple inches. Maybe they will actually move the 60 feet 6 inches, the holy grail from where the mound is to home plate. Maybe they'll move that back. They have experimented with that in the minors. I mean, if it's a big deal to you, if it's going to be that drastic and that you got to do something to even it out, then people say, I want baseball the way it used to be. Well, it used to be where they made an adjustment. They made an adjustment back in the late 60s. So How many people are going back before that? So you might have to do something like that.
Well, and you're right about that, because I want baseball to be the way it used to be in terms of not looking at a 235 hitter as a decent hitter and looking at a guy that's hitting 260, 270 and thinking of that as a guy who's hitting 310 or 320. And I've been thinking about like the different factors for why it's taking place. Obviously, there's more shifting, and the shifting gets more extreme every year. There's more emphasis on pitchers getting strikeouts and hitters not caring if they get strikeouts because they're trying to hit home runs and putting less balls in play. And you also got pitchers throwing harder than ever. Now, there's nothing you can do about pitchers throwing harder than ever. You can't say there's a limit. You can only throw 95 miles per hour. If you're throwing a slider, it can't be above 90 miles per hour. That's not going to happen at all. But there has to be something that can be done in terms of making baseball more entertaining by having more balls put into play. And the strikeout or home run thing, given the fact that it leads to more wins, I don't think that's going to help. So I think that I've been very against this in the past, but I think one thing that they might need to consider, and I can't believe I'm saying this, is limiting shifts. And I've always thought for years, like, if you can't get a hit through the shift and you're a pull-hitting lefty, then maybe you don't need to be in baseball, or lay a bunt down the third base line, or just slap one down the left field line because there's nobody there. I mean, it's been this way for like 6-7 years, and they haven't been able to adjust. So maybe instead of ending all shifts, they should say, which is a lot of people have talked about this, you have to have at least 2 infielders on each side, and if that just means one cleat, that's fine, but not having the third baseman play out in right field and then having a shortstop and nothing else. If that can do something to have more balls put into play so that we don't have 235 as the league average, that's something that should be considered. But they have to do something extreme, perhaps, like they did in '68, because this is not sustainable, and all these no-hitters means that nobody can hit.
Yeah, eliminating the shift doesn't sound that extreme to me, and there's enough people that are against it. And, I wasn't against it at first. I was like you. It's like, lay down a bunt, go the other way, adjust as a hitter. But there's so many guys, especially, the DH is Big Papi. And I remember when Victor Martinez was here, so many times I'd watch him, as a left-hander, and they'd have that guy out in shallow right, every other time, you have clean base hit. The guy was just standing right there, right where Victor, I mean, that's where he hit it. And, he was like, to hell with it. I'm not going the other way. I'm going to try to pull this, and I'm going to try to hit it out. And he would stand, and hit it right to the guy. Theo Epstein said down in the minors that they're eliminated the infielders playing in shallow and then the shallow outfield. And then he said in the second half here, they're going to have 2 on each side of the bag. So
Yeah.
they're going to go and eliminate those shifts. That wouldn't be a surprise if they did that. And, that's not as drastic as lowering the mound. I mean, that's like it's the way baseball used to be, where you didn't have guys all over the place. I don't think, there'll be people that complain about it for sure. He's going to complain about anything, but I don't think that you're going to get that big of a blowback like, oh, he's ruining the game, if you tell the shortstop and the third baseman that they have to stay on the left side of the infield. I can't believe they're going to be people complaining too much about that.
Yeah, and you can still do some sort of a shift by having the second baseman play further to the right and just having the shortstop have one cleat on the left side of the field. But it would cut down on it some so that you don't have, like you were talking about, a guy sitting out there in right field. And perhaps that can open up things a little bit so that the batting average moves up. I don't know if that's going to be enough. You just mentioned you didn't think that was extreme enough. I think there's only so much you can do. I am very against moving the mound back to 62 feet, another 18 inches. That certainly would be a way to combat all these pitchers throwing 98 and 100 miles an hour. Like when Joel Zumaya back in 06 was throwing 102, 104 miles per hour. I mean, nobody had pretty much ever seen that before. It was something you would see like once in a generation. And we still don't see guys throwing 104 consistently. But now it seems like 2 out of every 3 teams has a 100-mile-per-hour guy coming out of their bullpen, and everybody has guys throwing 97, 98 when you used to have just one guy maybe that could get to 97 miles per hour, and that gives you less time to adjust as a hitter. And when you're throwing 99-mile-per-hour fastballs, you're throwing 92 and 97 or 95-mile-an-hour sliders. It becomes just a lot more difficult to hit pitches, to square up a round ball on a round bat.
Yeah, and to that end, I'm surprised that the hitters, the adjustment that they've made, it used to be like your first 5 hitters in the lineup. One guy would try to take a walk or to work a walk, get on base. The other guy would be, hitting behind him. The next guy would be, hit the ball the other way, see if you could advance the runners. And then you would get to, the guys that you were hoping whether they're going to be a sac fly or whatever else, and then maybe a blast there. Yeah. But now the first 5 guys in the lineup, they're all swinging for the fences. Even the approach in the organization's like, no, we don't. There's not too many Harold Castros. Guys that are just looking for singles. These guys are up there and they're all trying to, instead of square up the ball, they're all trying to hit it out with the uppercut swing and hitting the lower half of the baseball. And I know Simo, Jelinik's guy, was talking about it the other day, he couldn't do that. He's got to square it up, and he was going to talk about it in Tigers Live. I didn't see that part, at 2:30 in the morning or whatever else, but, I bet Jelinik, we'll see. He's there on the chat. He was probably checking it out and seeing what Simo, probably DVR'd it. Yeah. He had to say.
Well, here's the problem, because I agree that back in the day you had your first and your second hitter that were just trying to get on base with singles and all that. And if they were trying to do that, that would boost the batting averages up, and we wouldn't have a league average of 235 or 236. The problem with that is that based on sabermetrics, they tell you have a better chance to win the game if your first and second and third and all the way through the ninth hitters are getting an 0-2 count and still trying to hit the ball out the park. If they're not trying to set the table for somebody else, they're telling you that while it's not as entertaining to have a guy go into the 4th inning or through the 4th inning, and he's only given up 2 base runners, but both base runners hit solo home runs. That might not be as entertaining, but that gives you a better chance to win than trying to manufacture runs by having guys hit singles and line drives and putting the pitcher in a difficult situation where he's got to pitch out of the stretch. You're more likely to win the game if you stick with the hit the home run strategy. It just makes for a less entertaining game because there's fewer guys on base.
All right, let's get to some of the feedback here, whether it's on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. You type your message out, we read it, and we respond to it here on the air. First up is Keith, who said I looked tired the other night. And you know what I thought was funny, Keith, is that about a half hour after the show, my wife, I ran into her, and she said, hey, you look tired on that broadcast. And I thought she was just being funny and reading what you had to say. And I said, oh, you're reading what Keith had to say? She said, no, I didn't see that. She said, you look tired. So she thought it was the adjustment.
Did you take
of
some
the
monsters?
Light. No, I didn't drink monsters. I think, sometimes you mess around with the light, and it hits you a certain way. Maybe it gets you some shadows or something. I don't know. I don't wear any makeup on the show. Not yet.
Neither do I.
So we'll see. No, you've got the nice tone for the camera there,
well, I also have a little bit of a blurrier camera than you, so it kind of melts everything together.
Well, I never knew that. Let's see. Keith's talking about LeBrick as a chronic flopper. Jelinek loves seeing the consecutive no-nos. No-hitters are awesome, but he didn't want the feet to be watered down. Yeah, I kind of felt like that. When I woke up this morning and I watched Sports Center, and they're like, "Oh, no." Yeah. Maybe we could wait at least a week or two, so enjoy it with Turnbull. So, yeah, I mean, it felt like that a little bit.
Yeah, and you see that Turnbull threw a no-hitter against a team that already had one and has a 198 team batting average. Like, the team can't hit. That's the only way that a guy like Turnbull is going to be able to throw a no-hitter. And when you see, sometimes when, there are going to be guys that throw no-hitters or almost no-hitters, like Armando Galarraga. He basically threw a perfect game. But... and it was kind of cool because of obviously what happened at the end with Jim Joyce, but also because nobody had ever really heard of him outside of Detroit, and I think that's the case with Spencer Turnbull. But the way things are going, we're going to have more Spencer Turnbull-esque pitchers like Wade Miley, who did it earlier this year, like John Means, who did it earlier this year, throwing no-hitters. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be throwing no-hitters, but generally it's the stars that are doing that. But when nobody can hit, anybody can throw a no-hitter.
That's a good point. You'd like to see like a guy like Clayton Kershaw and a guy that won the Cy Young like Kluber, Yeah, seeing him throw a no-hitter, that feels right. And nothing against Turnbull, like you said. Or Wade Miley. You're expecting the big dogs to do it. I said something about the PGA and Keith's talking about golf being so boring to watch. He said I could play it, but I turn it on, when I can't sleep. Kind of like watching the Tigers on the West Coast. Paul W. asking, who would be on our Mount Rushmore of Michigan's athletes and Michigan's coaches? I'll give you a quick
that takes some
Mount
time
Rushmore
to think about. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'll go, since there's four, and the four sports, I'll take one from each sport. I would put Anthony Carter from football. I would put Glenn Rice or Gary Grant. Gary Grant's my favorite. I'm going to have to put Gary Grant out there because I liked him, even though Glenn Rice is and Cassie Russell the more deserving. So AC, Glenn Rice, from baseball. You think about somebody like Barry Larkin or something, but I'm going to put my favorite Michigan baseball player is Mike Cervenak, who played third base and actually won a World Series ring with the Phillies, but he was mostly a career minor leaguer. But Mike Cervenak in baseball, and I'll put Brendan Morrison from hockey, who scored the game-winning goal of the bo title game to win the national championship for Michigan. So there you go. Those are the four athletes. Got to put Bo up there as for football. I'll put John Beeline, and basketball, Red Berenson. And baseball, I'll have to put Don Lund, who was also involved in the Tigers farm system, who was a skipper, and was also on the 65 championship team. There you go, Paul.
I'll go with Rice, Weber, Howard, Woodson.
Not bad. Ooh, Woodson. That's a good one. Keith saying Goff is so... Oh, now this one I thought he was talking about Jared Goff, and he's talking about golf being so boring. That's what happens when you don't have your glasses on. Yeah, golf is so boring, huh? Golf, he says. Nicholas Lidstrom, Steve Eisenman, Barry Sanders, Isaiah Thomas. Those guys are Michigan. No-hitters are great for the team that has the pitcher throwing it. Keeps you in the game. I enjoy watching them. That's from BP.
I enjoy watching it, too. But it has to be rare and special. Like I said, I get these alerts on my phone, and it's happening multiple times per week that someone is on no-hitter alert. And when that happens, it's not the once-a-month thing. It's not the, someone's going on Twitter saying, hey, has anybody noticed what's going on in this game? Now they're happening so often, you might as well just text your friend, hey, Chichi Gonzalez of the Rockies has a no-hitter into the eighth inning. I mean, it happens so often.
Exactly. Keith putting some numbers up, saying the batting average is starting with 2018, 248, 252 last year, 245, 236 in 2021.
Yeah.
Guys just can't hit. Jelinek saying the current batting average is 231. We really need more offense. Maybe Manfred ball will be eliminating the shift. Might be the right move. Look at that. People coming in with a Rob Manfred saying, "Hey, do something about it, Rob."
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I certainly don't like things like bigger bases and only 2 pickoff attempts and robot umpires and sticking a man on second base and all this other stupid stuff. 7-inning games, but there has to be more action in the game, and it can't just be walk, strikeout, home run.
BP doesn't like the shift. He says it needs to go away. Keith says you should be able to adjust your defense any way you want. There should be no set rule on how to align your infield.
Well, and you know what? I generally agree with that, but we've seen other leagues make adjustments to increase the offense. We've seen in basketball they took away hand checking, and there's less aggressive defense being played and offense is going up. You don't see games like we saw with the Pistons where teams can't score 70 and 80 points. We've seen in the NFL they've opened up things offensively so that we have more teams scoring 30 points per game, averaging that, as opposed to a team scoring 30 points that'd be the most you have in a single week. In the NHL, they got rid of the 2-line pass penalty, and that increased offense, I would think, a little bit. So baseball, they've got offense. I mean, I don't know if runs per game are down, but in terms of the action on the field, like, how often do you want to go 2 and 3 and 4 innings in a row with both pitchers setting down the side in order? That's not as exciting. It's more exciting if they do that, if it's rare. But if it happens all the time, and even guys like Turnbull are going 3 and 4 innings at a time with no base runners, then it's as if nothing is happening.
Yeah, I really like a pitcher's duel in the postseason. I'll take it if it's happening once in a while, like you're talking about in the regular season. But for the most part, especially if I'm going to the games, I want some offense. I want some guys running around. I want some great plays.
Yeah. And is it a pitcher's duel if neither team can hit? Like if there's a group of me and yous going out there against a major leaguer, then that's not a pitcher's duel.
I hear you. Paul says can't put. Oh no, it's Jelinek. Can't put Bo on there anymore. But he's got a point after what the law firm came back with 2 weeks ago. So I understand where you're coming from there, Jelinek. All right, there's the feedback about the no-nos in Major League Baseball.
Let's turn the page now to the... Oh, actually, before we turn the page to the second chapter, I did want to put up one more thing. It's a poll that I did on Twitter asking folks about the no-hitters in Major League Baseball and if there are too many. And put it up so you guys can see it. One day after Turnbull threw a no-hitter, Corey Kluber just threw one. That's 6 in less than 2 months. I don't know what should happen, but Major League Baseball should do something to end this. We can't have this every night. Getting hit shouldn't be this hard. Agree. 6.1% say they're not sure. 40.8% agree with me that yes, there are too many no-hitters. And 53.1% say no, the hitters just have to improve.
Yeah, I don't like your choices overall there, Chapman. But
well, then you should put up a 50th poll.
Maybe I'll start to do that. All right, let's get to the second chapter. You ready?
Yes, let's do so.
We stay with Major League Baseball and the White Sox. That's the other day they were taking on the Twins, and a White Sox hitter swung at a 3-0 pitch in a game that was a blowout in the ninth, and he hit a home run. It wasn't a pitcher. I think it was a utility player. It came in to throw the pitch, and a lot of people
Astudillo.
There you go. Weighing in on both sides of this. Some people taking the side of Tony La Russa, who said that, he thought it was, the unwritten rule that you don't do that. Meanwhile, a lot of people saying, let's go ahead and hit that home run anytime you can. What do you think, Chap?
Well, first, let's hear exactly what Tony La Russa said. Here is what he said after the game about Yermin Mercedes hitting that bomb in the 15-4 game.
With that kind of lead, that's just sportsmanship and respect for the game and respect for your opponent. He made a mistake. So, there'll be a consequence that he has to endure here within our family. But it won't happen again because Joe will be on the lookout, and I will be too, and we'll go running in front of the pitcher. We have to. No, he's not going to do that again. I heard he says something like, "I played my game," but no, he doesn't. He plays the game of Major League Baseball that respects the game, respects the opponents, and that was not. And he's got to respect the signs. When he gets to take sign, he takes. And it's a learning experience. Made a mistake. I actually apologized to the Twins. I sent the message over there, not acceptable, and and I'm certain that will not happen again with Yermin. There's a sportsmanship, respect for the game, respect for your opponent that's real. It has to be the philosophy, and we follow it. I've been taught it, and the fact that he's a rookie who's excited helps explain why he just was clueless, but now he's got a clue.
So there's Tony La Russa talking about Yermin Mercedes not having a clue, but obviously not everybody was in lockstep with La Russa, and that includes Trevor Bauer, who always has something to say. And here is what he tweeted out after the game. Dear hitters, if you hit a 3-0 home run off me, I will not consider it a crime. Dear people who are still mad about a hitter hitting, kindly get out of the game. So certainly taking a direct shot at Tony La Russa. Can't believe we're still talking about 3-0 swings. If you don't like it, managers or pitchers, just be better. And one of the other surprising things about this was the very next day, which was yesterday, the Twins responded. And in old school baseball, that's what you do. You respond. Maybe you throw at the hitter. Maybe you hit the hitter. And the Twins pitcher threw behind Yermin Mercedes, threw behind his leg, and the manager immediately threw out the manager, or the umpire immediately threw out the manager and threw out the Twins pitcher. And Tony La Russa came out after the game defending the Twins and saying, I don't have a problem with how the Twins handled it. Like, this is a no-brainer. I'm obviously on the side of Yermin Mercedes, obviously on the side of Trevor Bauer, because I have never, excuse me, I've never understood the whole part about you're a hitter, you're out there trying to do your best, but once the lead gets big enough, you're just supposed to quit. A guy throws you a meatball, he's not a pitcher, but he's pitching, so that makes him a pitcher, and you're just supposed to sit there and wait to strike out. Both teams wave the white flag, and you're just supposed to wait for the game to end. It's ridiculous to me that you have a manager, this old dinosaur, 76-year-old clown up there, telling his players, don't do your best because the game is pretty much over, talking about respect the game. Respect the game means that you try your best at all times. People like to talk about paying a lot of money for their tickets. They're not paying their money to have Yermin Mercedes, one of the best rookies in baseball, a guy who White Sox fans are excited to see. He's like their Spencer Torkelson. Get up there and stick the bat on his shoulder. The only issue I have with what Yermin Mercedes did was, according to Tony La Russa, he ignored a take sign. If the coach tells you not to swing the bat, then you shouldn't swing the bat. But hitting a home run and being irate that your player hit a home run and then applauding the Twins almost hitting your star player. If I was Yermin Mercedes, what I would do is I wouldn't stand for this guy, Tony La Russa, not liking me playing my best. And I would demand that he apologize. I would demand that he change his ways. And if not, I wouldn't play. And guess what? That would put the White Sox in a bind, because either Tony La Russa would have to change his ways and say, hey, we need to try to win games even if we're up 15-4, or they would have to demote him. And if they demoted me and I'm Yermin Mercedes, the White Sox would have more trouble winning games. If I decide not to play and they trade me away, they're going to have more trouble winning games. They cannot... Yermin Mercedes wouldn't have that type of platform if he was like, a quad A guy and they could send him away. He was like a Jake Rogers and it was no big deal. But he's one of the best catchers and one of the best hitters in baseball right now. And he's got a manager telling him he's going to face the consequences and we're going to run in front of the pitcher if we have to, if he swings. That's terrible. This dinosaur mentality needs to go.
Well, La Russa did a couple of things right, but then he did a bunch of things wrong. The thing is, with Mercedes, and you already mentioned it, La Russa had him with the take sign. And he wouldn't be Mercedes is not going to be the first person that ignores a manager, or misses a sign, and goes ahead and steals. Or how many times did Miguel Cabrera running through a stop sign at third base?
Yeah.
Those things happen. So when that happens, and it's Tony La Russa, you take Mercedes after the game and you say, look, we want you to take that pitch. You can swing at the next one, but the reason that you don't swing 3-0 when you're up in the ninth and everybody's ready to go home and they are essentially waving the white flag is that if you hit a home run, they're going to throw at you or one of our hitters. And we were trying to stay away from that. You know what? They ended up suspending the pitcher for the Twins. Ended up suspending the pitcher for the Twins. You don't want to get involved in any of that, the retribution and back and forth. So those were points, but how he handled it, La Russa should have just said, look, there's a reason that we had the take sign on. And then afterwards, though, if I'm talking to the media, I'm not over here apologizing at all to the Twins. I'm going to say, look, we had the take sign on. I talked to them, and that's going to be it. This stuff about I feel sorry for the Twins and talking about the unwritten rules, talk to your player and tell him there's a reason, that you had the take sign on. And you know what? I get a player wanting to go up there and hit a home run. Like the stats are a big deal. It's the one thing in baseball. Like in basketball, you're up by 20 points with 4 minutes to go. You can say, hey, stall it out the shot clock. Don't shoot any threes.
Yes.
Let's put our screen. In hockey, you can do the same thing. Pass it around. Football, you can just, run it right into the middle of the line. You can't do that in baseball. You have to go up there. And, there'd be a part of it. Say, look, put somebody else up there. Let's just put the cooler up there with a hat on. They can just strike him out if they want. But if you actually put a live guy on, I don't want to take a K. I don't want to go sitting around or taking a strike. But, they don't say that you're not supposed to swing 3-1. It's just 3-0. So, you know what? You don't want to start anything. This is a team that's in the Central. You're in first place. You want to let a sleeping dog lie there. So La Russa had a point, but he went about it in a weird way. I think, and there's nothing, it's not ageism, but, sometimes when people do get older, they start rambling on and saying a bunch of things they're not supposed to. And in this case, that's what it seemed like with La Russa.
Well, if this was 30 years ago when Tony La Russa was 46 years old or 20 years ago, I think the mentality that he's talking about would be a lot more welcome. But there are a lot of people right now that don't have that same mentality. Even if you're up by 11 runs, that you should just, respect the game and not try hard and just basically take the baseball version of taking a knee or milk the clock. But like you said, one of the great things about baseball is you cannot milk a clock. There is no clock. You have to play until the 27th out is there. And it's very rare. But I remember, 5-6 years ago, the Cleveland Indians scored 9 or 10 runs in the ninth inning to win a game. And I'll tell you this, what's more embarrassing than hitting a solo home run to go from an 11-run lead to a 12-run lead is having your players quit, and then in the next half inning, your team gives up 11 runs, which forces the game into extra innings, and you lose in extra innings. If you hit that extra home run, you could have an embarrassing inning where you give up 11 runs and you still win the game. The key is to win the game. And Tony La Russa was not managing to win the game. He was worried about the other team getting embarrassed. You don't want to get embarrassed? Don't give up 15 runs already.
Well, he shouldn't have been worried about the embarrassing part. What he should have been worried about is retribution, and that's why he had the take sign on. And, that guy should. This is not like the season's over or anything else. They're in first place. You don't want to be, kicking up a dust. Nothing like that. Take the win, get to tomorrow. Take one pitch. That's all he was asking him to do. Because you know what? The next day he throws out there and, it was behind him and didn't, whoever he threw at, ends up hitting him in the hand. He's out for, you don't want to ask for. You know that when you do that, whether you're Trevor Bauer or anything else, and people don't like the unwritten rules, everybody knew they were going to get thrown at. Everybody knew that was going to happen. So you think the rest of the team's go up there and swing and everything, but you know what? They like getting beamed, the next day. It's just that stuff's unnecessary.
No, it is unnecessary. I just showed the video on the screen of the pitch that went behind Yermin Mercedes, and you can see the umpires about to meet and throw Duffy out of the game. And I think that really is the only legitimate reason to have the to get angry about this, but that just goes back to the whole old school mentality of if somebody hits a home run off of you when the team has already put up 15 runs, you need to show them that they're not allowed to have a 16th run. 15 is enough, so throw at them the next day. Like, I believe that people like me and Trevor Bauer, who are okay with a hitter continuing to try, are also not happy about Duffy going out there and throwing behind a hitter. I mean, you can see right there that it's a 4-2 game when he did that. So the game was still in doubt. And what's he doing? He's putting himself and his team in a worse position to win that game by getting himself and his manager ejected. So you got all this selfishness, all these egos out there, and it's not about winning the game anymore. It's about your own ego and, hey, how can we preserve the game? The Twins are behind the Tigers in the standings, and you got a pitcher out there who's worried about retribution from the previous day. Give me a break.
I'll give you some feedback. I don't know about a break.
Okay, I'll take that.
Jelinek says Tony La Russa is the reason why I would hate baseball.
You know,
I'm for all the players running up to score. It makes for better rivalries and people getting heated. We need more a-holes in sports. Tony La Russa will not be managing next season. He adds, BP, these unwritten rules are silly for any sport. Just play the game. The goal is to hit the ball, I thought, question mark.
Yes.
Keith says,
yes.
Keith says, I agree with Tony. 3-0 off a non-pitcher, and your manager told you to take the pitch. And the game was in hand. It's about sportsmanship and class. Chap is speaking like he has no class.
No. I did say the one thing I agree with is that if La Russa gave him the take sign and he ignored that, that was wrong because you shouldn't defy your manager's orders. But the act of hitting the home run was not a problem. Going up there and trying to add on to your lead, getting another insurance run is not a problem. And then talking about disrespecting the game, what he should have been saying is he disrespected me as a manager. But don't talk about disrespecting the game. You want more runs so that you win the game. You don't want to be embarrassed by giving up 11 runs in the next half inning to send it to Manfred Ball extra innings and then you lose. Because guess what? Then this sucker, Tony La Russa, will look even worse because he told his team to call off the dogs.
Look, he should have said, look, I gave you the take sign for a reason. I didn't want you, getting any chin music tomorrow, after you go out there and hit a home run. Mm-hmm. Let's just move on. We're in first place. These guys are garbage.
Yeah.
That's the point to me.
Yeah.
I like the shot taken at you by Keith, but look at Jelinek not showing any sportsmanship, and either is Chapman. These guys are not very good sports.
Sportsmanship? Where is sportsmanship? Is sportsmanship? Does sportsmanship say that at some point you just quit, especially when you're playing a sport where there is no time limit, there is no timer? You have to get the 27th out.
I'm going to give it to you in Keith's voice. Come on, chap. You should be better than that. It's not hard to freaking figure out.
Yeah, it's not hard to just say, all right, let's quit. But guess what? Is there going to be like some treaty where both managers go out and sign a treaty and say, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have both of our guys with, 5 outs to go in the game, 2 for your team and 3 for my team. Just go out there and stick the bat on their shoulder, and they're going to be 3 strikes thrown in a row. The umpires are going to agree that even if the ball hits the dirt, it's going to be a strike so we can all leave. Or in the next half inning, is the team down 11 or 12 runs going to say, all right, well, we're probably not going to get a win, but I'm still going to try to get a hit. And if they hit a home run, is the team that's up by 11 runs going to say, oh, they're disrespecting the game, they should have agreed with us to quit? No! The game is over when it's over. This is not like basketball where you're up by 30 with 30 seconds to go and you milk the clock. In baseball, you always have a chance until that last out.
Keith's not done with you. He says, it's about respect in the 3-0 count. You walk me, then so be it. But if you throw a strike that I might swing, and on a 3-1 count, that's how I was brought up on the game when I played. And that's how the game is still being taught to the young players, chap.
Well,
if you are agreeing with Trevor Bauer, then you are in trouble because that guy is a knucklehead. He said a lot of stupid crap over the last 2 years.
He has said some stupid crap, and when I was a kid, when I was brought up, I didn't swing at 3-0 pitches either. But I'll tell you this, in New Age baseball, when you look at sabermetrics, a lot of these sabermetrics experts will say that you should not have an automatic take sign with a 3-0 count because your odds of getting a good pitch to hit are high because the pitcher does not want to walk you. So he might just pipe a fastball right down the middle. And especially if you're a non-pitcher, you don't want to go out there and just walk the guy. You're thinking, hey, maybe I can get a strikeout. That's a perfect time to get a meatball. He got a meatball and smoked it out to center field for a home run. So modern sabermetrics says that you should not just sit there with a take sign.
There we go. That's chapter 2. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's turn the page now to the 3rd chapter.
Look at that. You took the signal, unlike Mercedes.
That's right. I did take the signal. And that gets us to the same old Lions, and they are expected to be one of the worst teams in the NFL in 2021. If you're wondering how bad, according to the experts in Las Vegas, their over-under is tied for the lowest in the NFL at about 5 wins. Also, according to the experts in Las Vegas, the same old Lions are going to be underdogs in 16 of their 17 games and a pick 'em in the other game. So that means they're projected to go 0-16-1 just based on the point spreads. Also, if you're wondering how bad they're going to be when the schedule came out, I had the Lions going 3-14, and you were a slappy who had them going at 4-13. But what if the slappies have their day? What if everything goes right for the same old Lions in 2021? Would they be 6-11? Would they be sneaking into the playoffs at 9-18 or at 9-8? Could they get double-digit wins, Dennis? What is that best case scenario if everything goes right for the Lions in 2021?
Yeah, you try to figure out what would the best case scenario look like, and you'd start on offense, and they've built that offensive line. If it comes together, if Panay Sewell's rock solid and awesome over on that right side, and they figure it out. The other guard position, we know that Ragnow's awesome. He's the best player on the team. They really could have something going with an offensive line. And the 2 running backs that they have, are pretty decent. I know they have a third one that they picked late, but Jamal Williams, and they got in free agency, and DeAndre Swift, that could be a nice 1-2 punch. So you get a little bit of a running game, and that's going to help you with Jared Goff and that short passing game. I don't know if you saw this or not. Pro Football Focus came out with their top 32 quarterback rankings, and what was Goff? 28, 29,
26.
26. Yeah,
not that bad.
Well, it was still pretty bad. The thing was, I saw the top 10, and then I was like, well, let's see where Goff's at. And I was like ticking through their Stafford at 11. I'm ticking down. I thought, what, 15? No, 16, 17. By the time I got to 20, I'm like, whoa, he's really plummeting down here. I got to 26, and then when they say, look, he's pretty good at throwing the ball and 5 yards down the field, but when you're starting to talk about anything further than that, they could get a running game. They could. They're really going to have to find somebody on the outside with their wide receivers. That's real. Like, they don't have any there. Could the defense, take a huge step forward because they don't have Patricia? They're going to this 3-4, and Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, really coaches them up here. Rodgers leaves the division. Justin Fields struggles there in Chicago. These are all the things that could go right, and then other things are going wrong here too. So I put that. I think if all of that happened, maybe they could win 8 games. I mean, it is the NFL, but I really think when I really look at the offense, I don't feel good about it. Them being able to score with other teams, and when I look at the defense, being one of the worst ever, I think they can be a lot better, but I don't see them where they could be. Where they could get into the territory of 9 wins. So I think 8 would be the ceiling.
Yeah, this is a tough question, and I'll start with the offense too. And there really is not much of an upside for the wide receivers. I mean, if everything goes well, none of them are going to even sniff the Pro Bowl, and so that's a problem for the offense. You talk about trying to go point for point with somebody. Forget that, because typically if you're going point for point with somebody in today's NFL, you're doing it with the passing game with your wide receivers. I think if everything goes well, their wide receivers could be about as good as last year's wideouts because Galladay barely played last year. But that would be everybody staying healthy, and then Perriman and St. Brown and Cephas and all these other guys surprising me. But if they surprise,
Williams.
if they surprise me, then they're all going to play like number 2 wideouts. The offensive line really is the key for them, and in a best case scenario, it would give Goff all day to find Hockenson and these low, below average wide receivers, but it would open up holes for Williams. It would open up holes for Swift, and perhaps if they stay healthy, which is best case scenario, we're talking about that, Swift could creep over 1,000 yards. I don't think in a best case scenario he's getting 1,500, but could he get 1050, 1060, particularly with sharing reps? In a best case scenario, I think that's possible. Oh yes, yeah, with 17 games, yeah, I think he can get over 1,000 yards doing that. Also, you talked about Jared Goff being the 26th best quarterback according to Pro Football Focus. I think with the combination of not being in a toxic environment, and according to that ESPN story that came out a couple of months ago, it was toxic for him in Los Angeles, along with Anthony Lynn, who did such a great job with Justin Herbert, then in a best case scenario, Goff could be a top 10 quarterback, even if he doesn't have the stats to back it up because he doesn't have any wide receivers. Defensively, new coaching staff means a substantial improvement just based on not having the rocket scientist with a pencil in his ear. Best case scenario, the defensive tackles that you drafted are above average starters by the end of the year. Best case scenario, Barnes wins a starting linebacker job, and he's the second best linebacker behind Jamie Collins, who takes a step forward without Patricia. Best case scenario, Jeff Okudah shows that he sucked last year because of injuries and terrible Patricia coaching, and he looks like a Pro Bowl alternate. And moving to outside linebacker, Trey Flowers and Romeo Okwara combined for 22 sacks. If everything goes right, and they're one of the healthiest teams in the league, and Dan Campbell shows that he's a top 5 coach when it comes to in-game adjustments and preparation throughout the week, I can see them going 7-10.
Yeah, they do have some money to spend too. I hope they don't spend it, but maybe they could find a player somewhere. They feel like maybe they get off to a good start. I don't know.
Yeah, depth is going to be a real issue because I know we're talking about best case scenario, but the starters suck. And if the starters suck, then you know that whoever you got behind them is not gonna help out. So when somebody gets hurt, because it's football, and in football you have to assume a lot of injuries. Who's the backup wide receiver? If T.J. Hockenson goes down with an injury, your backup tight end. If Goff goes down, we know the backup quarterback position has been bad for the Lions for years.
They might
anybody
go
on defense.
Goff gets hurt.
Yeah. That's a possibility. What kind of feedback are we getting?
I feel like I need it like one of those jars where you start putting money in. If you say like a swear jar, like because I said I wasn't going to talk about him going on 0-17, and here I am talking about him going on 0-17. I'm sorry. Let me put $1 in there. Let's see, Chap. You're still my man. Love the show. That's from Keith. You guys were battling it out last chapter.
Yeah, we were.
Keith saying 6 games is the high if everything goes well. Current NFL power rankings have the Lions at 31. I hate the Lions. Did I ever tell you that? Laughing faces, emoji.
I think so.
Smiling, one with all 3 different ones. Jelinek says the Lions over and under is set at 5. I will guarantee that they go over that.
Okay.
Good. I can't wait. What happens if you don't come through with your guarantee?
Yeah.
He's got a nice Jelinek's got a nice head of hair there. Jelinek, if you don't come through your guarantee, the hair's coming off live on the 5th chapter next year. There it is. BP predicting 5-12. You know what? I'm still not used to it.
Yeah, having a 17-game season.
Yeah, looking at the 5-12, I'm like, what's 5-12? So what's he doing?
It's either 5-11 or 4-12. Oh wait.
There you go. I had a hard enough time, counting at 16. Now you guys, throwing me a curveball.
Mm-hmm.
Tough. I'll shave my head if they don't win 6 games. There you go. Jelinik's in. Right. It's the kind of stuff I like.
3 Baldies.
I can't wait. Oh, you know what? You think 3, I think 4. Jelinik thinks 6. Come on, 5.
I said 3 Baldies. Me, you, and Jelinik.
No, I got you.
Yeah, okay.
That'll be a great show. I can't wait for that one. All right. Let's get to the 5th chapter.
Well, before that, how about we go to the 4th chapter?
All right, let's do that. I don't know why I'd like to skip to the 5th one. That gets us to the NBA playoffs. We've had these play-in games and chat. We might as well get some predictions in because the first round is going to start up. We'll be able to talk about it on Tuesday. So let's get it going.
Yeah, as far as tonight, I've got the Wizards, although with the way the Pacers played on Tuesday, I mean, I'm not feeling quite as good about it. And then tomorrow, I've obviously got the Warriors, but I think that there could be some significant upsets before we get to the NBA Finals, before we even get to the conference finals, and I think it all comes down to injuries. I like the Suns over the Lakers in 6, and you would think that that's not an upset because it's a 2 beating a 7, but the 7 seed is actually favored right now, and I wish I would have bet on that series when the line first came out, because I think last night the Suns were at like plus 240 or plus 270. I think some books had it at plus 300. And then when I saw it this afternoon, it was at like plus 130. But I think the Suns are going to win that series in 5 or 6. I mean, you saw LeBron James. He injured his knee or his ankle or whatever when everyone was focusing on his eye. He's already got a messed up ankle. Schroeder, who knows if he's going to get hurt again. Anthony Davis, you can almost expect him to get hurt again. And the Suns have been resting all week. I think the Suns' backcourt's going to give the Lakers a lot of problems, so I like them to win that series. I don't trust the Milwaukee Bambies. The last couple of years, they've just been so soft in the playoffs. They're playing the defending Eastern Conference champion Heat in the first round, and I like the Heat over the Bucks. I also
I like that one too.
Depending on the injuries, and this team has not been healthy, I like the Heat over the Nets. If all 3 of their big 3 on the Nets are playing, then you can throw this out the window. But just because they're healthy now doesn't mean that they're going to be healthy 3 or 4 days from now. Doesn't mean they're going to be healthy a week from now. Doesn't mean they're going to be healthy during the conference semifinals when they face either the Bucks or, I believe, the Heat. So I like the Heat over the Nets because I don't trust them to be healthy. Then I would also say that in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's going to go to chalk because I've got the Heat getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, but the Sixers over the Heat. I think that Doc Rivers help coaching the 76ers is going to finally get the process to the finals. And then in the Western Conference Finals, it's going to be a 1 versus a 2. Donovan Mitchell looks like he's going to be coming back for Game 1 this weekend.
True.
And I think that he's going to get the Jazz back on track. They will beat the Warriors in the first round. They'll beat the Suns in the conference finals. And the Jazz are going to beat the process in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there that I actually hope happened. I would love to see the Suns beat the Lakers. I'd love to see the Heat beat the Bucks. I don't like the Bucks, and I don't really like the Lakers. But you know what? Until the Lakers get knocked off here, and I know what you said about the LeBron's ankle and he came back, but you know LeBron actually looked pretty good in the second half too, like bulldozing his way into the paint. And you know I'm taking the Lakers to advance over the Suns. And actually, what I thought was going to happen last year is what I'm going to predict to happen in the West this year. I think it's going to be the 2 LA teams. I think it is going to be the Clippers and the Lakers. It's going to be great for the NBA if it ends up happening that way. I said that I was not going to pick the LA Clippers after what they did to me last year, but you know, Paul George, you know, it was a depression thing. I'm going to take him at his word. And, you know, I don't know where he's at right now, but I know Kawhi Leonard still got it in him. They're a deep team. I like the Clippers, man. Every time I watch them, I'm like, man, this is a good team. I'm taking the Clippers to get to the finals in the West, and I like the Nets. I like the Nets. And I know it's crazy thinking all 3 of those guys are going to stay healthy and play together all the way through, but it's special watching them, and it's a lot of fun. Plus, I don't like any of the other teams. I don't like Embiid and the Sixers. I don't like the Bucks. I like the Heat. I wouldn't mind. I'm seeing it being, the Heat and the Nets, but I think that's going to be a second round. Or can they play in the Eastern Finals? I think they can.
No, that would be in the semifinals because the Heat are the 6th seed and the Nets
Yeah.
are the 2 seed.
Yeah, 2 seed. So I like to see that happen. And so I'm going to take the Nets over the Clippers in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, look, if the Nets don't have any more injury issues, then they should sweep in the first round. They could sweep. They could go 16-0, or they could go 16-2 or something like that because they're that talented. But when you look at how many injury issues they've had, when you look at Kyrie Irving, the last thing we heard from him is him saying that, and it's understandable that the Mideast issues are a problem. They're talking about war, although they did have a ceasefire that began like 2.5 hours ago. But him talking about that's not the most important thing to me anymore when you're about to try to win a playoff, or try to win the NBA Finals. You just never know what's going to come out of his erratic mouth. If everything goes according to plan, then yeah, they'll be dominant. I'm just expecting that things are going to continue to not go according to plan. And just quickly on LeBron James, you said that he looked the same. I did not think he looked the same. He did not look as explosive.
Not in the first half, he didn't.
Oh,
He
well,
didn't look good in the first half. I'll buy that.
yeah.
But I thought he looked good in the second half.
Yeah, I think that perhaps some of the adrenaline kicked in, but he didn't have the same explosiveness that he typically had. He settled for more jumpers and more post-ups than he typically had. And if he was 100%, he would have just been going downhill against the Warriors for the whole game.
It's only the second game back, I to expect him coming back and be 100% LeBron. I mean, I get it. That's what you expect. He's supposed to be the best player in the NBA.
Well, to beat the Suns, I don't think that he can afford to be just like 80%.
Yeah, well, I'm going to agree with you on that. But, the one thing about it is I'm going to really enjoy these playoffs. Usually it looks like it's only going to be 2 teams, but it looks like there could be 6, 7 teams that, it could be possible. So all kinds of different combinations. And
Yeah.
I think all the series will be good. And, even in the first round, it's great. Thinking about there's never been a 7 seed that could win the NBA Finals, and here are the Lakers that are the second best betting favorite in the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's great. I mean, it's great the way that it sets up, even seeing if the Warriors get in there, and that being usually the 1/8s are pretty much snooze fest. Not this year. So
yeah. You're gonna watch Curry.
Oh yeah. I want to watch Curry. It's fun. So I like all the way through. And even though I don't feel great about the Nets and the Clippers, and it could be any of these teams, there gets to be ones that you just like. I don't like watching the Bucks. The Greek Freak. And maybe it's because
they've just been they've just choked the last couple of years being the 1 seed, and then they just go in there, they lose their final 2 or 3 games, not just the last game, but the last 2 or 3 games in a playoff series.
I want them to choke.
Yeah, they've been doing it for the last couple of years, so no reason to not expect it again. Before we get to the feedback, I saw earlier today that the Chuckster Charles Barkley went on, I think it was either First Take or Get Up. I saw a highlight after he did his appearance. But he said that if LeBron James leads the Lakers to the NBA Finals, having to go through 3 series where he didn't have home court advantage to win, to get to the finals and win it, then...
Is he going to be the GOAT?
That's what he was saying, that we might need to really put him in the conversation, not just for being the GOAT, but surpassing Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan never had to do that. He was always had home court advantage for at least 2 series, and if not 3.
The millions of Jordan fans are like, no, doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter if he averages 50 points and 25 rebounds during the playoffs and wins all those and wins another ring and the MVP. Jordan fans will be like, no, sorry, not happening. All right. You know what else? I was surprised after the Pacers game the other night that both Barkley and Kenny Smith, they had Sabonis on after the game, and Kenny Smith was like, look, we were talking about this during the game. We think you're not only one of the stars in the league, we put you in the superstar category. And Chuck was like, yeah, we put you in the... So I was like, superstar? Sabonis?
No, I would not put him in the superstar category.
I wouldn't either, but when I heard Kenny Smith and Barkley, now I've missed a conversation. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe they said they had to put him in there. I don't know what they're saying there.
They're not going to tell that kind of joke when they're interviewing a guy.
I wouldn't think about it either. I wouldn't think that either, but they definitely said it. I was like, superstar.
Wow.
I mean,
okay.
star. I mean, you call him an all-star?
Okay.
All right, I'll buy all-star. Superstar. Really? I didn't think so. All right, Andy is on Facebook, and he says, I might actually watch the NBA if the Knicks, let me see, he had something about the Knicks here, and then it went away. I might actually watch the NBA then. I think he talked about if the Knicks got something going. And Key says he's all in. He's the biggest phony superstar ever. Suns all the way. Guarantee LeBron will act like he's hurt, as he can tell you they're not going to win this year, just like when he quit against Boston. The deck has to be stacked against that guy. Chris Paul, even at 36 years old, is the biggest offseason difference maker. The Suns are a 2 seed. He's had some bad luck in the playoffs, hoping they win it all. Yeah, Keith, the Suns beating the Lakers would be awesome. I mean, I'm all for that, even though I'm picking the Lakers.
The national media would not like that, though. The national media wants to keep on talking about LeBron James, and they're going to talk about nobody wants to see small market Phoenix, and yeah, it'd be a nice story for them, but we want to see the big market Lakers, the big market Nets, and even though nobody across the country cares about the Knicks, we need a big market New York Knicks team to win the first round series against Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks.
Andy wants a LA Western Conference. He wants a Knicks-Nets Eastern Conference Finals, and I don't think it could be.
Is he working for ESPN Radio or Mad Dog Sports Radio?
I don't think it can beat Knicks. I don't think it can beat Knicks-Nets. Can it in the Eastern Finals?
Yes, because the Knicks are the 4 seed and the Nets are the 2 seed.
Ooh, let's go. Look at that. Then he says he would actually watch. We got all the West Coast battles coming back. Are you kidding me? Let's do it. I'm in. I definitely want the Knicks to win the first round series against the Hawks. I was surprised to see that Dolan said, we know that we got the news today that all the outdoor stadiums are up to full capacity and everything else. Mm-hmm. He started inserting the Tigers jokes and everything. But the Knicks sold out their first 2 games, 15,000.
I believe
they're going to pack in. And but they're
a desperate franchise.
And New York, I thought maybe that definitely watching these last couple nights, the crowds, I don't know how many they're putting in there, but you can hear them. I mean, the crowds being back and electric, it's something, and that's only going to build here as we're going, hopefully.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody that's going is vaccinated, but we all know that's not going to be the case. And that gets us to the major wager, an opportunity for us to give you some sports betting advice, particularly with sports betting legal here in Michigan. You got playoff hockey, you got play-in tournament and playoff basketball. You got Major League Baseball to bet on as well. Dennis, remind everybody what you bet on Tuesday and what you're considering for tonight or this weekend.
Well, I was really thinking about taking the Lakers in that play-in game against the Warriors, but the number was a little bit big, and then Keith talked me into, he started pulling out the beat LA champs. Beat LA chants, I should say, not champs. Beat LA. Beat LA. And it took me back to the Pistons and then the Celtics doing it. Hey, beat LA. And so I flipped and I took the Warriors plus the 4.5, 5 points. And as you know, they covered that. So that's a dub. Dubs,
just
they
barely
lost that game. Yep, I'll take it though. I've lost many a time the other way. Getting clipped. I'm going right back with the Warriors on Friday. They're taking on the Grizz. I watched that game last week that they played in the regular season. I'm going with the Warriors this time to cover 3.5 points over the Grizzlies for $1 million.
So, for $1 million. All right, well then you'll nearly double that. On Tuesday, I had no faith in the Celtics at all, so I took the Wizards on the money line, and it was looking like a great bet. And then in the second half, Westbrook didn't look even close to like an MVP, and Tatum did with 50 points, and I lost some money. Tonight, I'm going to the Eastern Conference Play-In Tournament 8-seed championship game. On May 8th, the Wizards and the Pacers played, and the Wizards won 131-132. 5 days earlier, on May 3rd, the Wizards won 154-141. An insane number of points. Tonight, the total in the game is 238.5, which is about 119 points per team. And I'm looking for the trend to continue, so I'm going to take the over 238.5 points. And I can tell you that in the first quarter, the Wizards won it 30-29, so they were basically right at that line. And in the second quarter, the Wizards have an 18-5 lead, so it's 48-34. So it's going to be close, but I'm hoping that they can get to 240, 250, 260 points in tonight's game and make me some money.
Well, good luck with that. Jelinek wants Brooks Koepka plus 3,700 to win the PGA. He is sticking with that. Well, good luck on that, Jelinek, and thanks for all that you did there tonight in the chat. We hope to see you one day here on the show. Thanks to Brian Jelinek and everybody for watching and participating. Coming up on Tuesday's Fifth Chapter, we'll tell you if the Tigers will actually draw more than 8,000 now that the restrictions have been lifted. We'll guess at the attendance for the rest. Well, I guess we'll have to wait till June for that, won't we? That's what it's going to happen. So we'll speculate if they'll be able to go over 10,000 in any of those games. We will do that on Tuesday. So for Brian Chapman, I'm Dennis Fithian. Good night.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Brian Chapman, Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter.